All right, what's going on, everyone? You can tell by the title of the stream, people aren't too happy with Shonen Jump today, and there's a reason for that. People are upset with Shonen Jump, you know, just usually, but people are upset with Shonen Jump specifically today because they canceled Kayagami. Kayagami was a newer manga. I think it had like 20 chapters. I'm going to confirm. But yeah, 20 chapters. They're going to cancel it with next week's batch of chapters. And yeah, like nobody saw this coming. I mean, some people are saying, oh, the writing was on the wall. But I mean, I haven't even checked out this manga yet. We might do that today. But like, it looked perfectly healthy in terms of rankings. It started really strong. It was like in the top 10 on Manga Plus for about a month, which is kind of unheard of, right? Even like some of the best manga do not go top 5 on Manga Plus for a month, which is crazy. And even after it came down, because it went from like top 5 to lately it's been in like the mid 20s. And then I think it came down to like 35. I actually want to look that up. That's pretty normal. I mean, it's exactly what happened to Kyoshi. Happened to Marshall King, Boichi's new manga. So I mean, this whole Kayagami thing is crazy. Did it already end? Or it's got, yeah. It's in the same spot as Kyoshi. Kyoshi is 38, Kayagami is 39. The fact that it's still in the top 40 is perfectly fine. Like, it means people are enjoying it, right? Because it's on what, chapter, I think like chapter 20, right? Not even, chapter 16. Like, a manga's gonna lose interest after that first volume while it kind of like sets up things. But this is why people don't like Shonen Jump. Like, people love Jump manga, they hate Shonen Jump. That is the best way I can define that. We got Andre Partridge in chat. We got Joshua, excuse me, Gabriel Rojas. How you doing, Joshua? Eden says I hate it here. Yeah, that's big corporations for you. RIP Pithecus then 554 says RIP Kayagami. Now I'm worried about Harukaze Mound. In all of the recent TOCs, it's been bottom 5. Excuse me. At least Mound has gotten 2 color pages so far, which the other 3 didn't. Excuse me. We got Josh in chat. How you doing, Josh? I heard the word. Yeah, it's not great. It's not the end of the world. I mean, this is textbook Shonen Jump, but it still sucks. On the inside said, are you serious? I was just reading this week. This is like part of the reason why I don't have a huge incentive to read anything like brand new in Jump that isn't like immediately intriguing to me, because like subconsciously I know like they could cancel this tomorrow and I just wasted my afternoon reading it. Meanwhile, Kagurabachi got a Burger King. It got a Burger King collab, apparently. I guess so. It got the New York Times collaboration. Like, this gets into an issue that I want to talk about of like, specifically in the last 2 or 3 years, I would say. Starting with like, I don't know. I don't really know specifically where it started, but Shonen Jump has been making some very peculiar choices, even for them, when it comes to which manga they keep in the magazine, which manga they decide to start in the magazine, and then which manga they adapt into anime and when. And I want to talk about that. Ahohite says, I'm not surprised, but there were several worse series they could have axed first. And that brings up another issue of people misinterpret the situation, and you can tell like who understands the magazine to different levels, because there's levels of understanding to this. I don't claim to be an expert at all. Somebody like Axel Blaze on Twitter and YouTube, they look at the analytics more than I do. They can explain it better than I can, but I have a basic understanding of like the thought process, and I can tell you exactly why this manga got cut and exactly why other manga have not. Andre Partridge, I just got done mowing my lawn a few minutes ago. I got jumped by both a spider and a grasshopper. I feel that, man. I got a big old yard and I get attacked. It feels like I'm getting attacked by Mother Nature every time I cut my grass. I'll have wasps in my face, flies, mosquitoes, dragonflies. Rabbits will start attacking me, squirrels. Walter says they want the next Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, Black Clover so badly, they don't let these mangas simmer and develop. That's not totally wrong, but that's not completely accurate either. And I think that's where I'm going to start the conversation, but let me make sure I haven't missed anything in chat. Maybe they should have an American version of Shonen Jump for local aspiring manga and comic artists. Viz has that. I don't know about Shonen Jump, but Viz has something like that where you can apply or upload your own manga as like an indie artist. You can totally do that. We got Tyler in chat. How you doing, Tyler? It all started in 2020. That doesn't sound inaccurate. But I can't think of a specific moment, but there are certain like decisions that stand out to me that feel like the start of like a very weird administrative trend from Shonen Jump specifically. Like this doesn't seem like a problem with any other manga or any other magazine. The other magazines are like business as usual. Jump is taking some very confusing steps lately. By the way, Frieren is sold. So it's got 32 million copies in circulation. Yeah, I saw that. Frieren is Frieren, man. It's killing. I'm curious to see how it's going to turn out with season 2, but we'll see. Will Dawn to Dawn have a downfall arc? Hopefully not. I kind of doubt it. The Exodus? So the big exodus of Shonen Jump? No, it wasn't that time. But, some of the early stuff, like modern changes, I guess what I would call it is like modern Jump or recent Jump, right? Has made some very weird choices. So typically in the past, like with their regular series, they would put out a statement like months ahead of time, so people could like emotionally prepare for a manga to end. So for example, with Dr. Stone entered the final saga people could assume it was entering the final saga because it split itself into parts, like part 1, part 2, part 3. It was entering like whatever the last one was, part 4, and at that time there were statements saying Dr. Stone, final arc. There's no confusion, and that arc took like 2 or 3 months. So you knew 2 or 3 months ahead of time Dr. Stone was ending. That's just one example. Fast forward like 2 years, 3 years to last fall, last winter, whenever it was. So like a year ago, My Hero Academia and Jujutsu Kaisen end. And for both of those series, which at the time, besides One Piece, were undeniably, objectively, without a doubt, unfathomably, the biggest manga in Jump, right? My Hero Academia ends in 5 weeks. Not 5 months. 5 chapters. That's a month tops, right? And people kind of saw that one coming, but it was still like, okay, shit, all right, damn. And then Jujutsu Kaisen was even worse because Jujutsu Kaisen, everyone knew we were in the final arc, but it came like right when Yuji started fighting Sukuna. And as soon as that happened, Jump comes out and they're like, yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen has 5 chapters left. And everyone's like, what? Huh? 5 chapters. Everyone's still in the middle of the fight. Megumi hasn't come back yet. And we're all like, this all ends in 5 chapters? It's very weird. They've had a very weird way with how they treat the magazine lately. The other thing that's like new Jump versus classic Jump. Classic Jump, they were in like, they did not wait to adapt a manga. If they were gonna adapt a manga, the latest they would adapt it was like maybe chapter 120, and that's like pushing it, right? For the most part, manga would get adapted around like chapter 90, chapter 100, typically, right? But in the last 2 or 3 years, they've been doing something very weird. So let's do, this is the one that sticks out to me that is very confusing. 3 years ago, so I was right. 3 years ago, I'm trying to find the exact date. Nah, shit. That's not it. Wish there was a date for this post. I guess not. I don't know, but 3 years ago, they announced the anime for Undead Unluck, like right before I think it was right before or right after the time skip. And this was very weird because typically with manga, again, you come out with that anime when it's still new and like people are like still invested in it. It's like still trendy. And they decided to adapt it at a point where the manga was like basically over. Like they were, let me see if I can find it. It was like basically chapter 200. Let's go Undead Unluck. This isn't going to be exact. Let's see. Yeah, so they probably announced it around like chapter, I want to say somewhere close to like chapter 150, something like that. If somebody can correct me, just so I can have a better idea. But this is like their new thing that's like very peculiar to me, because what ends up happening is like the anime will get its first season, and while the first season is coming out, the manga is basically over. Like the same thing with Witch Watch. They did the same thing with Witch Watch. Witch Watch, if I can find it, because I know Witch Watch isn't over yet. They did it for Witch Watch. Witch Watch was around like chapter 1. Also, I think like chapter 150-ish when they announced the first season. So like you got Witch Watch, which did well actually. It was pretty popular on Netflix. But I mean, it's only got one season, and the manga is like in its autumn, right? It's in the autumn of its length, right? And they did this again with Akane Banashi. Akane Banashi anime announcement like a few months ago, half a year ago, right? 150-ish. Yeah, I think it was again around like chapter 150. So by the time we get this anime, which I think is this year if I'm not mistaken, it'll be the first season and the manga will again basically be over. So it's very weird. I can only think of one reason why they do this. But let me, before I get into that, let me take a peek at chat. Let me take a peep at chat real quick. We got Toad Sage. How you doing, Toad Sage? We got Sammy Pup. What's up, OG? Watching all the way from South Africa. Well, thank you. Jesus, must be late for you. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, no. Getting late, I would think. Fowler says at least there's a open spot for a new manga. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is Shonen Jump. Shonen Jump just does way more volume than the other magazines. Like, I don't really follow the other magazines as closely. They come out with new manga, but I don't think they do it nearly as frequently as Shonen Jump. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But like, Jump does a new batch, I think every season. It's either every season, so like every quarter, or like twice a season. So like twice a quarter. I think it's not a set schedule, but I think it's somewhere between like 4 to 6 times a year. Maybe more like 3 to 6. But because they do that so often, what ends up happening is they get to a point where they either have to add the manga and not cut anything, and now they have a bunch of manga, which has happened before, points where like there's so much manga in the magazine that some of it is just dead weight, like nobody's reading it. And then the other issue is when they don't do that, they put themselves in this position where they go, okay, well, we're adding 3 new manga, or in some cases 4 new manga over the next 4 weeks or 3 weeks. We got to cut something, right? And that's what happened in this case. I don't think, if they weren't adding 3 new manga, I think Kayagami would have got like another quarter, another volume, right? Another season. I think the reason they cut Kayagami is, so let's look at the Jump lineup right now. So they have, and again, we're just talking about Weekly Shonen Jump. They have Elusive Samurai, another manga they adapted late, by the way. Elusive Samurai, One Piece, Kagurabachi, JJK Modulo, Ichi the Witch, Blue Box, Shinobi Undercover, Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi, Akane Banashi, Witch Watch. There's a few more. Me and Roboco, Himaten, Ekiden Bros, Harukaze Mound, Kayagami, New A's Exorcist, Odor of the Flame, Ping Pong Peril, Someone Hurts. I think that's it, right? Yeah. Okay. So, here's the thing about that. I don't know what Someone Hurts is. An unfunny guy and a hilarious high school girl wage a war of comedy. Okay, so that looks like a comedy manga, right? So here's the thing, right? They're not going to cut manga that are like brand new, and they have to maintain their genres. So like, for example, people wonder like, why is Roboco still in the magazine? Roboco is still in the magazine because it's the best, it's the most consistent gag comedy in Jump. So it's basically, to come up with a really, what would sound like unfair comparison, it's basically their one piece of comedy in the magazine. Even if it's not like the best or the sexiest manga in the magazine, it's something they know people have liked for years now, so they can put it in there and it'll consistently get people to read the magazine, which is the same thing with One Piece. So one of the genres, right? So you have that with One Piece, you got your battle series, you got that with the comedy manga, you got Roboco. Then you got the series that kind of blend these, like Shinobi Undercover is a mix of things. I don't read it, but it's like an action series, but also like clearly different from something like One Piece. Then you have Witch Watch, which is kind of like a mix of everything because it's like a gag comedy, but then it'll have some action in it and it's got some romance. Obviously, where is it? Blue Box is checking two boxes because it's a romance series and a sports series. You're not going to cut Ekiden Bros and Harukaze Mound, not yet, because you're trying to build up your sports section. Odor of the Flame, this is the one I see the biggest criticism of. People on Twitter are like, how is Odor of the Flame still in the magazine and they're cutting Kayagami? Odor of the Flame, to be fair, to play devil's advocate, Odor of the Flame is 22 chapters, Kayagami is 16 chapters, so if anything, they should cut Odor of the Flame and give Kayagami one more volume. Here's why it probably came down to a decision between Odor of the Flame and Kayagami. They're both in this position of like, they have a lot of action series in the magazine right now, and they gotta cut some fluff. The reason Odor of the Flame probably almost got cut but didn't is because it's occupying that space of like, dude, we have so many action series right now. But minus, well, I'll put it this way. It has the unique appeal of being not only a fantasy series, but like a traditional fantasy series with Nordic Viking twist. So it's not quite like anything else in Jump. Even if it's not the best performing manga, it still is more unique, stands out more, occupies its own space. The issue with Kayagami is it has to compete with New A's Exorcist, which I get the feeling it's not ending anytime soon. New A's Exorcist, I would assume Shinobi Undercover, it's not an Exorcist series, right? Shinobi Undercover, a Nervous Ninja, and a Total Klutz. Yeah, so that's more ninjas, but like similar space. Action series. Kyoshi, obviously an Exorcist series. So we got Kayagami, New A's Exorcist, Kyoshi. You can maybe put Shinobi Undercover in this section. Now you have Medulo, which Medulo is going to be, what, 1 volume? Yeah, so you have like a handful of Exorcist series in the magazine right now, and most of them probably aren't getting cut anytime soon. So that's how I would rationalize it, but that's the rationalization. The fact of the matter is, this feels like a really stupid move, because I don't see anyone talking about Ekiden Bros, Harukaze Mound. There's a bunch of manga. Like, Medulo's only going to be here for a few more weeks. It just feels very weird to me. I understand why they had to make a cut. They have a lot of manga. Let's count how many manga they have. They have, in Weekly Shonen Jump, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 manga. So not the most they've ever had, but they've got a pretty high number of manga. I think at times it's been like 22, right? Has been their highest number, something in the low 20s. But it's crazy. It's crazy that out of all the manga they could have possibly cut, even if it kind of makes sense logistically, I don't think anybody would have picked Kayagami first. I think as much as people want it to succeed, if given the choice, people almost unanimously would have picked Odor of the Flame. Kiyoshi, I don't think was ever going to get cut because it's an assistant of Oda, and that looks really bad. Like, there's been a history of Horikoshi's assistants getting absolutely trashed when it comes to new manga in Jump. Something like Zipman is a standout example. But that's Horikoshi. As great as Horikoshi is, he's not Oda. You have Akane Banashi, which is doing really well, and they used to work for Oda. You have Kiyoshi, which is not the best performing manga, but it's okay. And it's been around for over a year now. Well over a year. So if they were to cut it at this point, it would also feel kind of stupid, because it's at a point where, like, they've kept it for so long. If they were gonna cut it, they should have cut it like 6 months ago. At this point, like, they should just let it flesh out. That all being said, I am not for this at all, even though I haven't checked out Kayagami yet. Everyone only had good things to say about it. They said it was really cool, and regardless of my circle, every time I looked at Manga Plus, it was doing great. Recently, not so much, but it's followed the same arc as every new manga. Start out strong, go low, and then if it had been given like a couple more months, it probably would have shot right back up to like the top 20. So, I don't know. This is why people don't like Shonen Jump, because they make increasingly peculiar decisions that really just leave you scratching your head. We got Greek Weeb in chat. How you doing, Greek Weeb? If you don't follow him, Greek Weeb does his own manga reviews, so make sure to check him out. Wish Kodansha had a better app. More people would use it. Yeah, Kodansha's got to fix the, what the hell is it called? K Manga. They got to fix that app. because it sucks big time. Jump has a new batch every 2 months. Yeah, so that checks out. So that means every like 6 months or so. Or yeah, that checks out because that means it would be like about 6 times a year, which is crazy. That's insane. I don't think any other magazine does that. I could be wrong in saying that. I think it's because of the recent EIC change. What is EIC? JJK's announcement was out of nowhere, at least MHA, you could tell. MHA made perfect sense. It was just a bit of a surprise. JJK was a total curveball. Nobody liked that. It's normal for a manga to get an anime in 3 years. Even Naruto and Bleach had gotten their anime in 3 years. Yeah, but 3 years, what's... yeah, I guess that makes sense. Still, for the most part, most anime usually get an announcement around like chapter 100. Which manga from Shonen Jump did you ever read before that you really wanted to last longer? Not in weekly Shonen Jump, but on Jump Plus, I kind of wish Diamond in the Rough had been given like one more arc. That one was pretty depressing because Diamond in the Rough was really good. Yeah. Don't anime adaptation usually get announced between 80 to 100 chapters? Yeah, that's exactly it. It's usually around like chapter 90 or 100. And lately they've been waiting till like chapter 150, which when most manga end around like chapter, you know, like 250 or 300. So you announce the anime at 150. So then another 50 chapters pass in the season 1. The first season starts, right? So it's starting at chapter 200. 12 weeks later, your manga is going to be at like chapter 212 and the first season will be over if it's not 2 cores. So yeah, depending on how big the manga is, if it's ending around like chapter 250, like the manga's got 30 chapters left basically. Excuse me. It's very weird to me. Like what was Undead Unluck was what, like 240? Undead Unluck ended with chapter 239. So about what I said. And that's the thing. We don't know when we're getting, there's no announcement for season 2. They'll probably announce it after the winter special. But like there's no sign of season 2 and the manga's been over for like I think half a year. When was it? Oh, almost a year, almost a full year. It ended January 26th. So that's why I'm not really a big fan of current Jump. Someone Hurts is a rom-com. Yeah, so I was half right. I kind of figured maybe a bit of romance, but comedy, pretty obvious. I'm just surprised they didn't wait for volume release before Kayagami. Well, I think it's gonna have 2 volumes because I think it already got 1 in Japan, if I'm not mistaken. Odor is such a sleeper and the choreography sucks. I wouldn't say that. I would just say the story is hit or miss depending on how you feel about it. OG, what are you talking about? We're talking about Kayagami. We're talking about Kayagami and why it got cut. They axed Chojo and yet announced it to get an anime. That's the weirdest one. Like, that one makes no sense to me. Like, why are you spending money to push a manga that's got, what, 3 volumes? How many chapters does Chojo have? Chojo has 65 chapters, so if you do... That's like 6 volumes, not even. Like, they're really gonna... To be fair, it makes... Logistically, it makes sense because they can adapt all of that in one season and, like, that's it. That's a done deal. But, like, it just seems weird that they're gonna spend that money to push the sales for a manga with only 6 volumes. That is not an action series. There's something going on at Jump, if you ask me. It's not, something's in the water. They're feeding people something over at Shueisha. Editor-in-chief? That's what I'm guessing. Like, did they... Oh. Did they change the editor-in-chief? What did you... So you brought that up. Where... Who said that? I'm looking at chat. Josh. So Josh said, I think it is because of the recent editor-in-chief change. When did they change the editor-in-chief? I don't think the editor-in-chief would necessarily be making calls for like anime adaptations, but as far as like manga getting cut and manga getting pushed, that much makes sense. Xme's man, however you say your name, Kayagami is really getting axed. I was enjoying it quite a bit. I would say you're pretty representative of most people who follow Jump. I can't think of a single person who didn't like Kayagami. I can't think of a single time I saw a bad post about Kayagami. It wasn't the most talked about manga, but for the most part, everyone said like, yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. OG, check out Shonen Champions magazine. Yeah, I gotta do better about reading the other magazines for sure. Diamond in the Rough has enough chapters for an anime adaptation with like 72. Yeah, they'll never do that though. If they do, I'll be shocked. This is like Ayashimon. Yeah, Ayashimon, I never read that one, but I know a lot of people were like, well, this sucks. That one, I was kind of surprised. Because that one was Yuji Kaku. Kyoshi isn't all that great, but it would probably reflect badly on Oda if his disciple got an axed manga. Yeah, it would just be bad luck because Oda would be like, bro, what are you doing? That's my boy. That's my guy. What are we doing here? And they don't want to piss off Oda. Yeah, Kyoshi I think is good for at least 2 more years. That's how I feel. Standards in Weekly Shonen Jump seem to be lower now. I like Kyoshi and all, but the fact that it's still around is crazy considering its sales are barely showing any growth. And Phantom Seer sold twice what Kyoshi did. So let's be careful here. Phantom Seer. So when we say sales, that's not sales. That's volumes and circulation. So that is not a sales thing. That is a, hey, we're going to print more of this manga thing, which can happen for different reasons. We got Townsy in chat. Everyone say hi to Townsy. Tell Townsy to have an awesome day. He's one of my editors. Great dude. Chill dude. And also happens to be the biggest Sonic the Hedgehog fan. So if you're cultured, say hey. Have a good day, Townsy. I think most adaptations should be announced around 60 to 80. No, I think 90 and 100 is the sweet spot, and here's why. So let's say, just for organization simplicity, let's say you announce an anime at chapter 100. So anime announcement drops at chapter 100. So about a year later, all right? So 50-ish weeks later, usually it's probably longer, but just for simplicity, let's say 50. If you drop the anime a year later, the manga is at 150. So depending on the longevity of that manga, at minimum, you're looking at least another 2 years for that manga, which means 2 years later, now the anime is probably wrapping up season 2. And at that time, the manga is either already done or probably wrapping up. So that's why I would say like chapter 100 is like the perfect time to do it. I don't know if you saw this, but Ruri Dragon was also an assistant to Oda. Yeah, that I was trying to think of the third one. So technically, what is Ruri Dragon? Is Ruri Dragon Jump Plus or is it Weekly Shonen Jump? Let's take a look. I always forget. I've had this conversation before, but let's see. Weekly Shonen Jump. It's still got, I'm looking at Wikipedia. It's still got Burn the Witch listed, which makes me cry, makes me want to cry. No, so it should be Jump Plus unless Wikipedia is lying to me. If we go to Shonen Jump, did I count Sakamoto Days? No, I don't think I did. I think I missed Sakamoto Days when I counted manga, so that would mean 19. Am I crazy? Oh, here we go. Yeah, Sakamoto Days was on break, so make that 19 manga in the current lineup, not counting Hunter x Hunter, not counting, I guess, Burn the Witch. Yeah, so Ruri Dragon is Jump Plus, thank you. Ruri is weekly? It was Shonen Jump, but it shifted to Jump Plus. Okay. That's what I thought. That makes more sense. Somebody said something though. I feel that mangaka should be given about 1 year to come up with a good story before Weekly Shonen Jump decides to axe them or not. Again, it comes down to the pressure of the magazine, because, you know, sometimes they got to make deadlines. They got to get their nut, for a lack of a better term, right? They got to make their sales, and if they got to cut something, they got to cut something. But part of it is just the fact that they come out with 6 new batches of manga a year. You can't have 20 different manga in the magazine and get 18 new manga a year, basically, and not cut stuff. Kayagami doesn't get volume 1 for another 3 weeks. So that's crazy to me. Like it didn't even get a volume. Jump I think usually waits until like at least 3 volumes, like they did with Phantom Seer. So cutting it as early as they just did is wild to me. Excuse me. Eden says came back and heard Sonic. We can always have a good Sonic discussion. MHA got an anime announcement at chapter 65. MHA is an outlier. You can't really compare to MHA. Tansy says we have, so he and I have like 98% of the same opinions and thoughts. So that makes it a lot easier. That 2% though, that 2% is a war zone. Let me tell you. We agree on like 98% of stuff, which is why Townsy and I are twins. But those rare occasions where something pops up in that 2%, boy, is that a conversation, let me tell you. Yeah. 3 o'clock? Damn, I've been talking for 40 minutes, 45 minutes. God damn. You can tell how much this stuff pisses me off. Like usually I kind of just freeball, freestyle. I know words, I swear. Usually I just freestyle by what people are saying in chat, which is still kind of what I've been doing today. But I, like, for the most part, I've just been rapping, spitting off the top of my head for the last almost 47 minutes. So evidently I have some thoughts. It's crazy to me though that this still happens. 2025 was a really weird year for Jump. Well, let's look. Each of the Witch was a little over a year ago. I want to say February. No, last September. It was September 2024. So what came out after Ichi is what I want to know. Trying to think. Harukaze Mound and Ekiden Bros, obviously. Kayagami, which we've talked about so much today. Odor of the Flame, I'm gonna guess probably February, right? No, it started in May. Wow, I suck at guessing, I guess. I guess that would make that guess a bad guess. I don't know. Yeah. In terms of new manga this year, I'm very unimpressed. Besides Kayagami. Like, Odor of the Flame I like. I don't care for Ping Pong Peril, Harukaze Mound, Ekiden Bros. Someone Hearts looks like a manga I could get into. I know nothing about it besides what I can see, and the art style looks alright. What is this one? Yeah, this has been a very bizarre year for Jump, and I would not be in a rush to defend their decisions. There's a features list that shows all the manga. It is on Wikipedia. Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I was looking at Wikipedia. It's just, there's certain manga like Ruri Dragon where it's kind of unclear. I really hope they go hard for Ichi's 2nd anniversary like they did for Kagurabachi. That would be nice. That would be really nice. I freaking hope so, but we'll see. Really trying not to speak like a sailor here as much as I want to. Weekly Shonen Jump without Kinyukuman and Dragon Ball would have been dead. Kinyukuman seems like a hot take, but definitely Dragon Ball for sure. What's that 2%? So with Tansy, I can't think of any specific examples. Off the top of my head, I like Solo Leveling and he hates it. Townsy has a bitter relationship with solo leveling. I want to look at Manga Plus and then transition to the start of the fall season for anime. So let's look at Manga Plus. So JJK Medulo is number 1 again. Chainsaw Man is number 2 again. One Piece 3, Boruto 4, Dandadan 5, which makes me super uncomfortable, but considering it is remarkably ahead of Sakamoto Days, I am not the least bit worried. Sakamoto Days, Spy Family, Kagurabachi, Ichi the Witch. Again, Kagurabachi, Ichi the Witch, always neck and neck. I think they're going to be this generation's Black Clover and My Hero. Not spiritually, just like competitively. I thought that was going to be Ichi the Witch and Kiyoshi, but boy, was I wrong on that one. Someone Hurts is number 10. It's still pretty new though, so we'll see if it can stay in the top 10. Centuria is still at 11, which is awesome. I would love to see it in a month or so cross into the top 10 because I think it deserves it. Blue Box still doing well. Make the Exorcist Fall in Love. So the fact that Make the Exorcist Fall in Love hasn't gotten an anime yet is another one where I'm like, guys, what are we doing? What's going on? It's still in that sweet spot where it could definitely happen. I kind of don't see it happening this year though. Like I haven't seen any mention of rumors or anything. That's one that I think deserves to get adapted. Mad's still doing well. Ruri Dragon's still doing well. Drama Queen getting consistent traffic, which I don't know what's going on there. I'll have to check it out for myself. But that one is definitely a shocker. Chojin X doing well. Hero Organization consistently in like the mid 20s, which is awesome. Goku Rakugai 24, love to see it. Himisen at 27 makes sense. Would like to see it come up a bit, but makes sense. Odor of the Flame 28. So Odor of the Flame is slowly moving up. Ignore what people are saying about it being dead. Like a month ago, it was in the mid 30s and now it's number 28. So Odor of the Flame, give it time. Let them cook. Martial King is 30, so it's moved down a bit because it was like 27 or 28. So Martial King hanging in there. Marriage Toxin 32, so it's still hanging in there. Hopefully it stays there. Kyoshi at 38, so Kyoshi moved down a little bit, and then Kayagami is number 40. And yeah, so Kayagami has the privilege of being able to say that it was in the top 40 every week during its run, but it's also going to end on like chapter 17, so that's kind of depressing. I yell at OG while I edit, don't tell him. Yeah, sometimes Townsy wants to reach across the internet and be like, my dude. But we'll see. Yeah, he's in the same mindset I am. He said when I typed, I started thinking, but I can't think of anything specific. That's the thing. Like, we agree on so much. Like, we're so very much on the same page that it's very hard for us to be like, Yeah, I guess we do kind of disagree on that. We usually agree on, like, honestly, it's more like 99% of stuff, but 98 is pretty accurate. Marriage Toxin getting an anime. Marriage Toxin is one I'm excited for because it's not Studio Bones. Well, hold on, wait a minute. Time out there. I need to confirm what I'm about to say. Gachi Akuta. Gachi Akuta is Bones Film. Okay. That's interesting. So, what I was about to say might be bullshit, but let's see. Marriage Toxin anime. Google pulled that up a little too quick. I don't like that they knew I was going to type that. That one's also... Okay, so Gachi Akata is Bones Film. Marriage Toxin, also Bones Film. Although, let's see. So this one is produced by Bones. Marriage Toxin produced by Bones. Gachi Akata produced by Bones, Dentsu, Avex Pictures, and a bunch of other people. For the sake of comparison, let me see. Mob Psycho. So Mob Psycho, obviously, Bones Film wasn't even a thought yet, at least as far as we know. So you can't really compare that, but so the difference there, Mob Psycho season 1 at least, made by Bones, but produced by Warner Brothers, Shogakukan, and a bunch of other ones. But Warner Brothers seems like a big one, as well as Shogakukan. So you got a few big names there. If we go to Mob Psycho 2, same story, Warner Brothers, Shogakukan, Bones. Mob Psycho 3. Same people as well. So with Bones, right? So just to finish off this one, let's go to My Hero Academia. And I keep dragging this out, but I want to make a point as far as Marriage Toxin. Where are we? Of course they have it. Boku no Hero Academia. Really? Come on now. As far as season 7, Toho Animation. Yeah, so it kind of seems like with Bones, it comes down to the producers rather than Bones itself. I know they have come out and said, like, there's Bones and then there's Bones Film, and Bones Film is going to be another thing, right? So you know what? Here's a good example. Yomi no Sugai anime. So I know this one is Bones, but I need to see. This one is also Bones Film. This one I think will be more consistent than some of Bones' other stuff because it's Bones, Aniplex, and specifically Square Enix. And Square Enix kind of gives me a bit more confidence because while they aren't as much of a monolith as Jump, the stuff they do put out is almost always a banger. Prime example, Fullmetal Alchemist. So I think they'll be a little more strict when it comes to the quality of that anime. Marriage Toxin, I feel like will be a toss-up, but we'll see. I think Bones just rebranded themselves to Bones Film. I thought it was another studio. Well, let's look. Let's go back to My Hero Academia. That one is Bones. And then final season. Bones Film. Okay. No, I take that back. So it's the same. It's literally the same studio. Just different name. I don't know why they did that. So yeah, it's exactly the same studio. But so I guess that reinforces even more what I said about it kind of comes down to the producers, seemingly. Yeah. So one last thing I want to do, I want to look at, let's go to live chart. I want to see. So One Punch Man season 3 would have come out already. I haven't heard anything about it, but I know people aren't crazy about it so far. Spy Family, I guess, already came out. I haven't heard a peep about Spy Family. Gachi Akuta. Gachi Akuta should be #1. I don't know what this crap is with One Punch Man and Spy Family, but I guess that makes sense. My Hero should be higher. I don't know how I feel about live chart right now. This seems like a bit of caca with the rankings. Let's go to Mal. If we go to anime, seasonal anime. Okay, so that's pretty consistent. So unfortunately, this is not going to include Gachi Akuta. Gachi Akuta would again probably be 3rd place, but One Punch Man, Spy Family, My Hero, To Your Eternity is in the conversation, but I don't see anyone talking about that show. Yeah. Gintama should have come out already. I haven't seen any traffic for that series. This is like probably the worst example of like a bunch of stuff has come out and I haven't seen any response to any of the new stuff. So this is probably like the most underwhelming fall season we've had in at least 2 or 3 years, because usually the fall stuff is awesome. And with the exception of maybe My Hero and still Gachi Akuta, I feel like the season is criminally mid. But on that note, I'm going to wrap things up. Thank you, everybody. We had a great conversation. Awesome turnout, as always. Wish I had better things to say about Shonen Jump, but here we are. Look out for new videos this week. There'll either be 1 or 2 new videos, at least 1 for sure. And then we'll stream. I actually need to check. January, yeah, January is going to be peak. Winter season is going to be like impossibly good. It'll be choice paralysis. I just want to see Dawn to Dawn. Okay, Dawn to Dawn is on track, so we're good there. So new video this weekend, and then Dawn to Dawn on Monday. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you Monday. Peace.